of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 170. At long last. Shota's point of view. Part 3.
Are you sure about this? I mean, this isn't because of what's happened to me, right?
Standing with his husband next to yet another wide, flawless window, Aizawa Nabi smiled and cupped his lover's smooth, quirkless face, his turquoise eyes soft. It just wasn't possible, well, before today, he replied softly, whilst the sounds of Melissa and Eri playing created a wonderful backing track to their talk. And now this whole mess, everything that's happened, if our new little sister gets a push of the restart button on life, then why should I? Why shouldn't we? He offered with a light shrug, their eyes locked whilst Shield-san, their father and grandfather, enjoyed a cup of tea together as they lounged in sumptuous Victorian-styled chairs and sofas. Plus, I'll not only match Eri-chan in coloring, but I think that becoming the person I was meant to be involves physically playing the part, too. He grinned. That and our Fire Dust brand becoming quirkless owned, all the new content being made regardless, could be, even more inspiring to the many people out there who are quirkless by nature, right? He shrugged. Yeah, can you imagine Izuku's face when he knows that we're just like him? Man, our favorite freckled genius will probably bust our gut, don't you think? Watching as his partner huffed and rolled his eyes behind glossy ebony bangs, the flame quirk user knew that he'd won the other's approval because he needed it. Not for any stupid reasons to do with vanity or because he was whipped, but because what Tomer thought mattered to him. Because his opinion mattered, because they were a team who talked and decided the course of their lives together. And he wouldn't have it any other way. Okay then, he breathed, his shoulders rolling in a playful gesture as they turned back to the extravagant chamber. Everything was overly plush. There were crystal chandeliers, gold crept across the walls, the mirror frames, and even the arms and legs of the furniture, whilst vases burgeoning with all manner of exotic flowers dabbed the fancy mahogany side tables and the grandiose marble hearth. At least interior design didn't run in the family. Although, including such decor in another video game idea they've been playing around with could work, couldn't it?
What's with that look, huh? You look like you're scheming.
Blinking an actual laugh leaving him as his left hand sought his partner's right, he shook his head ruefully whilst they walked towards the adults sat in a squared formation around the fireless grate. I was just thinking, he added mildly, this parlor would look great in that mystery RPG we were talking about. He grinned. Nothing says whodunit like, this kind of fancy setup, wouldn't you say? And between my drawing skills and your coding, we could really bring it to life. Or we could use it as the setting for that 18-plus dating game Nemorini keeps begging us to make, couldn't we? He furthered whilst offering him a cheeky wink. And the blush adorning his lover's cheeks, the slightly younger man muttered a curse at him before tugging him along the expanse of highly varnished oaken floorboards, his mouth unable to conceal his snicker. Then, upon reaching the youngest members of the room, they quickly looked over the girls before approaching Shigaraki. So you've made your decision then? Nodding, a trickle of nervousness tripping down his spine despite himself, Dabi looked to his father before returning his attention to the former fiend before him. Yeah, you're welcome to my quirk, of course. It doesn't conform to my actual body, let alone a quirkless one. He shrugged. That's why I got so messed up in the first place. He furthered, his turquoise eyes dimming a touch. Endeavor just crossed his fingers and hoped we'd all be like Shoto, with the perfect balance of powers. He mused, his free hand rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly whilst Tomra leaned against him, his soft warmth of comfort. He failed to factor in how quirks change as a person grows up, and well, cremation-like heat with a body that's built to withstand the cold just isn't a good mix, is it? Watching as the quirk stealer nodded, his expression sagely sympathetic, The crimson-eyed man set his delicate china cup and saucer upon the small table at his side so he could stand unabated. "And so, my boy, you'll shed your biological father's burden and become your own man," he congratulated, his smile serene.
Harry-chan, would you like to come over and watch? That way you can see that having your quirk removed is both quick and painless, can't you?
Blinking a little, Dobby turned with his husband to the little girl who'd sat up to appraise them tentatively. "Hey there, princess," he grinned, her cheeks pinking delightedly at the nickname. "I'd really appreciate you coming over here and holding my hand, you know. It'll make me feel a bit braver, anyway," he added, her large cherry eyes widening in understanding. Then, her little hands clenching into tiny fists over her chest, she nodded and strode towards him determinedly.
I'll help you, Dabini,"
she stated, one of those freshly unclenched hands reaching for his. The scars he saw slashed across her arm, making him want to ask for just 10 minutes alone with Chisaki. The former Todoroki offered her the smile he only reserved for immediate members of their family, his longer fingers grasping hers gently while she smiled up at him. "Thank you, Eri-chan," he breathed. "I feel much better now." The transformation, as his own father figure explained, was twofold. "Firstly, I'll take cremation from you. It'll be a great deal easier to disassemble and reassemble your body without it getting in the way, I think." Watching as the all-powerful country leader took his oldest ward's free hand, Eri-chan now stood dutifully between himself and Tomura, whilst he looped an arm over Melissa's delicate shoulders. All of them gathered to offer love and support, as with a flash of light ringing like quicksilver around him. "Whoa!" Dobby became quirkless in an instant. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes widening, then softening. When that turquoise gaze met his own, the younger man smiled, bewildered but happy. The eatery owner couldn't abate his own relief. He was fine. Yeah. I mean, it's weird, but I don't feel empty or like I'm missing anything, so that's a bonus, right?" He juggled back, his voice lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders whilst he appraised his hands. What now, Ji-san?" Turning his attention back to Shigaraki, Shouta steeled himself to watch one of the young men he couldn't love anymore if they were biologically related transform, his body becoming free of pain. Free from the scent of burned flesh and the constant war against infections fighting to collect around the staples he and Tomura had helped him to bathe 1,000 times or more. Free of the burden of the cruel legacy that his power-obsessed biological bastard of a sire had placed upon his shoulders. Shoulders that Endeavor had intended to build a weapon against All Might upon and nothing else. He was so stupidly glad to know that Dobby could shed all of that metaphorical weight now. He only wished that what was about to happen could have happened sooner. "Well, my boy, the second step is quite simply me, rearranging you somewhat, and then piecing you back together without the scars that ail you." The oldest of the room grinned, the excitement in his eyes causing him to huff and share a meaningful look with the man who'd adopted him. "Ah, come now, Shouta-kun. This is something to be celebrated, isn't it? You won't deny me a modicum of delight in playing a hero for a change, will you? Snorting his smile, quipping, he ruefully shook his head. "Whether you like it or not, Yuta-san, you're very much everyone's hero today," he admitted, his words causing the platinum-haired man to soften his amused look into something more appreciative, whilst Melissa preened on his behalf. "High praise," he grinned, "especially from a man such as you," he furthered before placing both of his hands to cap Dabi's biceps. "This will be disorienting, but only for a moment," he told the artist stood before him. "David, are you and that infernal contraption of yours ready?" Feeling some of the tension leach out of the room at the American's affronted retort, Shouta released a shaky breath. His oldest son would be okay. He'd be better than okay. And then he and Eri, they'd be okay too. No more scars. No permanent physical reminders of the torturous punishments for poor behavior or the extraction of blood and bone marrow. When he took the little girl he was hoping to adopt into a therapy sessions, he'd have to book himself in too, wouldn't he? Wonderful. Forgive me, my dear professor, won't you? Teasing you will always be a favorite pastime of mine. But you're right, of course, so let's begin, shall we? Blinking out of his thoughts, Shouta sighed. This was it. After releasing a shaky exhale, Dobby felt like he was everywhere and nowhere all at once, the feeling lasting only for a second and an eternity at the same time until... Whoa! He stood exactly where he had to been, his sneakers, jeans, and his favorite black blue cat-dotted t-shirt all as they should be, but his arms, they... I kept your ear and nose piercings in place as requested. Their Honorary Ji-san offered, the palm of his left hand open and raised for him to view. But what would you like me to do with these, Your father thought that melting them down into a pendant or two might be a more aesthetic way to put the past behind you. He grinned. Or we can simply dispose of them, of course. Blinking rapidly, his eyes torn between observing the staples the other held and these arms that were his and weren't. He...
Dobby?
Turning his head, his neck not hurting in the slightest. He regarded his husband and felt his eyes bubble with his own tears. Nothing hurts. He breathed, a disbelieving laugh rumbling up and out of him as Domra rushed into his arms that moved freely without the stiffness he'd learned to endure and pushed to the back of his mind. He never felt so. What'd you think, huh? You're not disappointed that I look just like any other guy now, right?
You what?
His partner gushed, those fiery crimson eyes burning into his own as he pulled away slightly to glare through dewy lashes at him.
God damn it, Donna! If I didn't love you so much, I'd smack you upside that snowy white head of yours for saying something so stupid, you big beautiful idiot!
Laughing loudly, even through his tears, the first son of the Noraneko Cafe hugged his lover tighter, whilst his father and official siblings encircled him, the warmth of their bodies the same as his now, whilst the hands of the two grown men who loved him most ruffled his hair. You look more like Yuta's son than mine now. No disrespect to G-san, but you're not getting rid of me that easily, you crazy nuts old guy. Smooth, gentle, wondrous fingers over the living flesh under his eyes, at his ears, and around his neck. It felt really good. 3 o'clock came around startlingly quickly, and although he couldn't wait to be reunited with his family, he felt almost a little nervous. I'll give them a warm welcome, okay? Oh, and tell Dynamite that he's got our full permission to coddle you, alright? Nodding at Dobby and waving at them and Melissa, Shouta released a shaky sigh. All of this could have gone so differently, and it would have been his fault, wouldn't it? David, would you mind walking our lovely area on ahead to the guest suite? I'd like to have a word or two with my boy before heading off. Blinking, his bare feet stopping, the rookie pro looked to Shigaraki. The wily old fiend didn't miss much, did he? Sure thing. The scientist smiled whilst beckoning the girl, his grin sharpening a touch when their eyes met. I have a few choice words for a kid then, too, when you're finished. He enlightened, his cobalt eyes glinting. And after all the sage advice, support, and hope you've given me, Shouta, you better believe that I'm not missing my chance to return the favor, you hear? Laughed snorting, the eatery owner similarly waved to Eri. See you soon, Papa. God, he would die 1,000 times over to keep that smile upon her face. I'll be right there, he promised, her expression brightening before she became absorbed by the conversation that David began with her as he continued on down the corridor which led back to the bathroom they'd first arrived in a few hours ago. Hours that felt like a week and a half. For the first time since I met you, Shouta-kun, I find myself concerned. Turning his attention back to the man who'd once been a person he'd feared. A person he'd been furious with for the terrible things he'd done to Tomra, his own husband, Gran Torino, and thousands of other people besides. The rookie pro released a tired chuckle. How does that feel? he asked him, his tone playful. I know that you wanted to speak with me, but first I just want to say that I couldn't be prouder of you, either. He offered, his smile genuine in the face of the old menace blinking rapidly at him, his cheeks actually pinking. Well, that wasn't that a nice surprise. Shouta? I mean it, he countered after sensing his advantage, his smile widening further. Look at what you've done here. You're creating. You're a leader who people are choosing to follow, not out of fear or deference, but because you chose to open your heart to new ideas. That's David, he furthered as the suited man balked at him. You really are something else, Yuta-san, he added gently. Not many people have the capacity to change the way you have, let alone to change for the better in terms of relinquishing grudges and looking past hate to love, he told him firmly. You're pretty amazing, you know. Blinking bewilderedly as the older man moved, far too quickly for him to see, the cafe owner relaxed into the embrace wrapped around him with another chuckle as the man huffed. The amazing person here is you, the powerhouse breathed. Don't let what Chisaki has done dampen your spark, your marvelous ambition, my boy. He furthered his arms, giving him another gentle squeeze. I couldn't let him and his little group live. I wouldn't be able to keep that promise of being a better man if they did that to you. To the one I owe the happiness in my heart to. He continued, a hand moving up to the nape of his neck whilst the other rubbed across his back. Don't you ever forget how wonderful you are. I will not allow it.